+1 Carapace, and now that all his Mutalisks are there, now he's going to throw them in. +1 Carapace finishes, but I think he needed to wait for just a few more seconds. Mutalisk count is dead even 14-13 right now.
Let's see, Hendralisk is going to try and pick these off, and he is able to do that with the Queen support and the Carapace. There is the GG. Very nicely played. Hendralisk puts another one on the board and equalizes things up very nicely.
I mean, I actually want to rewatch that replay because that was just such an unusual counterattack by Hendralisk. You have to stay back home and defend and be so careful if they have +1 Carapace against your no +1 Carapace Lings. It's very clear what went on in that circumstance. He was microing poorly because he was over killing the third base of Gosu user. That was just a game-endingly brilliant move.
Yes, it absolutely was. In fact, I'm going to try and bring up that replay here. The main problem is I have to just wait for the lobby to go through, and we will have a look at that particular timing, because this is something that we did miss. So I would like to show just how that went down. And as you said, it was a brilliant move. It was an absolutely phenomenal move. And it did win the game. I don't think there's really a question about that. And even after some dodgy Baneling engagements, losing your third base, I mean, you can lose 20 Banelings as long as you kill your opponent's third base. Who cares in this matchup, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we said before, Zerglings rule on this map. They are the dominant force in the early and mid game, and we got the chance to see that. There's almost no way to cover all the possible attack angles, so you just have to have some control on the ground side of things. And Gosu user, even though he went for the +1 Carapace, just didn't have the defense back home. No,
he very, very clearly didn't. So here is what happened. So we get this base up right here. And that's the third. Hendralisk has his own third. You can see the little move out on the map and then the pullback. And then Gosu user tries to flank around the right side. But on the left side, which actually has no overload coverage, there you see the strike force of Zerglings. These guys are special ops. They're highly trained just for this particular situation. And as soon as this attack connects on that third base you can see on the minimap, he goes right in for it. Gosu user is focused here, not here. And as a result, he loses his third base. And a couple of Lings come in just to see their hatchery die. What a disaster for Gosu user, and what a great play for Hendralisk.
Wow, and it wasn't even a cancel, just straight killed it off. And I mean, Hendralisk has a clear, easy game plan from then. No Zerglings for his opponent to exploit that +1 upgrade with. No lead in Mutalisks. I mean, what an amazing tactical move. This is what I love so much about Heart of the Swarm, is that, you know, the build order, I think, for Gosu user was had a superior construction to Hendralisk, but it was the tactic that let Hendralisk pull ahead.
Indeed. You know, it was a really good piece of snap decision-making, and I'm very, very impressed by that. We're going to be going into Game 3 very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. Do not go anywhere. You're watching SHOUTcraft America. Sorry for the delays, folks. We've had a couple of lobby issues today, but no doubt we will get those solved pretty quickly. I think we actually just lost another commentator there. Every now and again, Battle.net just does that, right? Sometimes it just has a bad day.
I mean, at some point, I imagine we will be able to have infinity casters in every single lobby, but we are merely in 2013.
Yes, the technology is indeed just not there yet. So, we will see. Game 3. This is going to be on Whirlwind. I think that's the biggest map we've currently got in the pool.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll feel a lot like Star Station for that very reason. I mean, the central watchtower provides a surprising amount of help against, the Zergling threats in general, but there's still just so many different angles that you can be swinging in at that I would not be surprised to see some of the cool counterattacks, like what Hendros did last game, or the Nidus Network style play that Ghost User has used several times to great success to pop out here.
Yep, and I do very much love that. We saw some absolutely phenomenal Nidus play, of course, in his performance in WCS. I think it's got to be one of my favorite StarCraft gifs of all time. Has to be that Baneling popping out, basically the trap Nidus network, killing all of the lings around it as they fly everywhere. The physics come into great effect. It was phenomenal. It was really great.
And given, cross-map positions, this would be a perfect map to do it on.
It would. Let's see if he decides to do it. Spawning to the southeast position. Having taken a little bit of a thrashing in the last game, let's see if he can reassert his dominance. 2 men enter, 1 man leave. This man is called
Millennium Gosu User.
He is in the red trunks playing Zerg to the southeast. Versus his opponent in the long cross position. Gonna have to have a little bit of a jog over to the other side. In the light blue trunks, playing Zerg to the northwest, he is
Complexity Hendralisk.
TB, I'm kind of the opinion that I feel like roaches need to make a cameo appearance in the Zerg vs. Zerg series. Just this once.
Okay. This really, I wouldn't say that this is the map to do it on, though, surely, because of the massive rush distance between the two, or would you disagree?
I mean, I'm getting kind of torn about the way that the Roach functions, just because the Nidus Network plays have been so strong. Because there's Nidus Network cheese, which is, go to base, and then that's it. You're never expanding ever again, and you're just going to try to kill him with Nidus Networks in his main or at his front. However, I do feel that, given the fact that Hydralisk Infestor Roach is so strong defensively, letting you stay alive. There's 4 bases that you can get quite straightforwardly. This central one, and of course the northern one for Hendralisk, and the sort of corresponding ones for Gosu User. Those would be reasonable, ample defensive choices for that sort of setup. The only question is, how do you get those attacks off? And I think that the late game Nidus networks do have some potential. I mean, you imagine Gosu User having a Nidus network pop down at the far right expansion, at the 3 o'clock expansion, and then there's suddenly Roach Hydra coming in from that far right side. I do think that on a large map like this, it could have some potential. I just want to see it, man.
It would be nice, certainly. I mean, Zerg vs. Zerg is a matchup that has probably, of all the mirrors, in my honest opinion, been the slowest to evolve. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of that is the fact that it's so fragile. And most players are just focused on staying alive and trying to figure out new meta.
Yeah, and you can hardly blame them for that. It's not really their job to figure out new meta, it's their job to win the existing one. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's not entirely surprising. But, you never know, this might be the tournament that gets bust out in. I suppose the question is, does anyone take that risk? Or will we see a Ling Baneling into Mutalisk once again?
I mean, honestly, that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
a
so
conservative
strong.
estimate.
Yeah, I mean, we already see both players beginning to mine gas. Having about the same gas timing means that they will have about the same Zergling speed timing. This map is pretty tricky to go Mutalisk on because the corners are so significant. It's so easy to sweep around the watchtower with Mutalisks, but if you try to sneak around the watchtowers, you have to worry about an attack going back to your base, getting intercepted if you're behind on Mutalisks. There's all these contingency fears.
Yep. Gosu User is going to have a leisurely jog all the way up to the top here, and I do mean a leisurely jog. He'll get picked off, but he now knows exactly what his opponent's got. So that's fine, and we're going to see exactly the same thing coming in from Hendralisk. He's going to have leisurely jog up the natural ramp, and he actually knows a little less. He was driven away there. He did see the Queen. He did see the expansion, though. So he's probably thinking, yeah, this is the same. This is the same business. He also knows, I think, from just peeking up there. Excuse me. Catching the Zergling flu right here. The Gosu user's Baneling Nest is not at the natural.
And that's, I think, a really cool decision from Gosu user, because in Game 2, we saw him Baneling Nest in the main, played it out as normal. But Game 1, we saw mass Zergling attack from Gosu user. So if you hide the Baneling Nest, you allow yourself to do those sorts of plays, like the big Baneling bust. So, Hendros does have to have at least a little bit of fear that that could be coming out again, but his Overlord positioning is just too good.
Yeah, I tend to agree. He's also going... it looks like we might not even see that big engagement at the start. We're going to see straight into lair. Gosu user gets the earlier... No, actually, he doesn't. Never mind. Ignore me. He gets a slightly later gas there, and he's getting that lair, and it looks like they're both just going to go straight up in that general direction. So with that much gas, I'd say it's a 90% chance we're going to see Mutas again, and I am kind of hoping for that 10%, but, we know what the meta is now in this matchup.
Yeah, especially with the 6-minute layer, it's hard for it to be anything but Mutalisks in this sort of position. So now all it comes down to is trying to get that gas advantage in the late game and trying to do some Zergling harassment in the mid game. These are the two resources you're really balancing is, if you devote too much to minerals right now, then you have to deal damage to him in a gas-related way. You have to kill off drones mining geysers to eventually pull ahead in the Muta battle. There we see the Spire going down for Hendralisk, and probably for Gosu user in a few seconds as well.
I'd certainly expect that. It would be really weird if he didn't. That was... Wow.
Oh, that was an uncharacteristic blunder by Gosu user.
Yeah, losing a couple of Banelings like that, that's really surprisring. Also, the third base got scouted there.
You had 2 Banelings for 2 Zerglings.
Yeah,
Ugh.
Not good. No one wants to trade that, as far as I'm concerned. It's like try again. It's like trading your shiny Charizard for a normal Pikachu.
Who would ever do that unless you're playing Super Smash Brothers?
Yeah. Which, in that case, it's okay, but any other case, it's basically a war crime. And now we're going to see this huge Ling run by right into Hendralisk's base, and off goes one Baneling. I'm not actually sure whose Baneling that was. It just randomly went off in the middle of the mineral line for no particular reason. A bit of premature eruption right there, but that was defended reasonably well. If we look at the number of workers lost, it was only 4 lost to begin with.
But this is still a really smart play from Gosu user and a really necessary play, to be honest. He's going for mass Zergling in this spot because he has a much earlier third, so he has to down a lot of minerals both to defend his base, but he's going to take those minerals and try to deny a base from Hendralisk, which in the long run will hurt Hendralisk's gas count. But this is a very tricky situation for Gosu user, so most commonly what we'll see players do is get the upgrade from Mutalisks and still focus on the Zerglings for a long time, not really focus on being aggressive with the Mutas.
Yeah, it's currently 38 Zerglings to 15. That's quite a lot. Not too many Banelings on the map yet, but of course that could very, very easily change. Hendralisk is posturing to try and do a run-by here, and it looks like he'll actually succeed. The majority of those Lings are heading in the direction of Hendralisk's base. Hendralisk could go in here and do some fairly significant damage before the Mutas pop out, but it looks like that window is about to close.
Yep, Hendralisk is just kind of trying to bait those Zerglings up, trying to tease them up. There's a Zergling beginning to make its way up into the natural expansion. So, in a long-term sense, both players are going to be very reticent to do anything Mutalisk-wise until that +1 Carapace is done. And a nice pickup by Gosu user. He's going to snap the necks of all those Lings.
That's absolutely wonderful. Taking out a couple of Banelings at that point is really great for him. And now he's going to get aggressive with the Mutalisks. And of course, we're going to see the Mutalisks coming out from Hendralisk as well. It's currently 10 to 11. Very, very close here. Carapace starts at pretty much the same time. So it's very hard to call at this stage. Both players are very even, although Gosu user does have that supply lead, and that is due to his drone lead.
So there's this weird situation that you end up in this circumstance, which is you want to actually make certain that you are getting way ahead in the Zergling count. So you're going to be trying to look for opportunities to pick off stray Zerglings, to try to pick off stray Overlords. And this is perfect for Gosu user if he gets this pack off up in the top right-hand side. Right now what this means is that soon enough Gosu user will have a huge lead in Zerglings. He can do a big direct confrontation with all his Mutalisks and all his Zerglings, and no doubt all the Mutalisks of Hendralisk will be occupied shooting Gosu users' Mutalisks. And that's when Gosu users' Lings destroy everything on the ground. That's going to be the key tipping factor. That's what Gosu users going to have to do to win.
Certainly. The cool thing about Lings as well in that Muta versus Muta battle is that they can actually tank some of the ricochet shots from the glaive attack.
That is a super critical point. Henderless, oh my god, he's moving way too far to the right. He's going to run a big risk right there. I mean, this is why this map control is so essential. Ghost users losing a couple of lanes. Still not losing as many as Henderless, though.
No, certainly not. Currently, the meter count is 23 to 21. There are way more lanes on the map for Ghost User. I mean, it's 42 to 9. That's a huge difference. Henderless just had to build 6 Overlords, which obviously is not the lings that he wanted. There's 16 lava available for Ghost User. He could easily surge yet more lings. He has the map control right now. Henderless' little packs of lings are just running around getting picked off left, right, and center here. And Henderless can't harass because he needs to keep those mutas at home to defend. But now Ghost User is ahead in all aspects of this game.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost User is really dominating in this situation. I mean, the big thing is that for all these crazy movement tactics we're seeing, he's just not really losing that much at all. He's a little teensy bit behind on upgrades, but in this point, Henderless has to take kind of a risk. He has to maybe go Infestor and land an amazing fungal growth to start taking down all these Mutalisks. But in the time that he's doing that, he runs the risk of dying to a big swing in. Oh, Ghost User, I don't like this play, Totalbiscuit. He's going to end up sacrificing a lot of his Mutalisk, or his Zergling lead.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, he's gonna gut this base. I don't think there's really a question about that, but was it worthwhile? There's some weird counterattacks going on as well. Henderless is actually running towards the 3rd and even the 4th base in the center here. Here's this engagement. It's going to get cleaned up. Here's Henderless' little run by. It's not too big, but it may be able to catch out a few drones here and there. Then we've got an attack on the 3rd base. Currently 28 to 34 mutas. Ghost User's being driven away here, but he does actually have the Mutalisk lead.
Oh gosh, you know, Ghost User's Mutalisk lead might be the one thing that will save him from that blunder. I mean, he lost so many Zerglings in that engagement, and I mean, how many drones?
Anything. 4. He only killed 4 drones.
Oh my god, wait, but there's only one in the gas geyser in the main base. He killed 2 of the more important drones. If Henderless does not replenish that, he is going to just fall apart almost immediately. Ghost User, despite some of these, you know, slightly questionable decisions, has made so many amazing ones back to back to back that he is in a clear lead with that 4th base.
Yes, certainly. Now 39 Mutalisks to 29 as well. Henderless gets out on the map and tries to pick away at that Zergling lead, but now has to move back to his 3rd because this is not well defended at all, and the big Mutalisk count will come in, immediately obliterate pretty much everything here. He's going to be forced into this battle, and Henderless is behind 40 to 29 here. If he takes a straight-up fight, he will not survive.
Now, here's a counterattack I actually do like by Henderless. I mean, he knows his opponent's Mutalisks are well out of position, so he's going to be guaranteed to get a pretty significant pack of drone kills. He has the 2 Banelings morphing in the corner. This could really turn things around.
It really is. Like, he's killed 16 workers, now looking to try and get 17, 18 workers, 9. This is massive. Ghost User, I think, made a misstep in not committing to that 3rd base. But Henderless was able to draw his Mutalisks away. And as a direct result, he now has taken the drone lead for the first time in this game and is going to play catch-up. He's also got his upgrades going. If Henderless can actually stay alive long enough to get +2...
Well, the real issue is, again, if you kill off your opponent's drones, you will certainly harm their mineral income rate, but you'll rarely have an effect on gas. I mean, look back in the main base of Ghost User. He has 1 drone mining minerals, but he is right back up there in the gas count, income-wise. He is just soaring ahead of his opponent. I mean, Henderless has still not replaced that drone in his main.
Yep, that's true. You look at the gas right now, we're looking at 900 gas a minute versus 600 gas a minute. In a muta versus muta war, of course, that's massive. That is usually the difference between defeat and victory. And I think now with 52 mutas versus 42, Henderless just got to pull another crazy move to try and get back into this. Because in a straight-up fight, he loses 100% of the time.
And I mean, he's really needs to get a little bit more spore crawlers up. I think Henderless is starting to feel the lack of gas that he has. He's really tight for both minerals and gas, but still, slowly but surely is the best way to begin trying to pull back in a situation like this in a Zerg vs. Zerg. But this is where Ghost User can join together all of his forces and just blast at his opponent's front. Henderless is trying to go for the max army. He's hoping to have more Mutalisks at the max point with better upgrades.
And I don't think he's going to get there before Ghost User hits. I've got to say, Ghost User is being very, very passive right now. And Henderless is pulling him around the map. You know, taking a queen out here and there, that's really, really great. Anything you can do to delay that lava. But the big run-by comes in, and Banelings connect as well. So this run-by actually shut down very nicely here by Henderless.
I think it might give Henderless a little bit of time needed to look in his main base and go, oh my gosh, I'm actually behind in the gas count. But no, doesn't notice.
Yeah, that's pretty... Sorry, go ahead.
It's one of those, you know, questions of numbers. If 20 Mutalisks to 10, the 20 are going to dominate. But that 10 differential matters less as time goes on. Because if you're at 100 Mutalisks to 90, still a possibility that +2 upgrade could really kick in there. So, amazingly, even though Ghost User has been ahead by all measures for, what, 2-3 minutes now?
Yep.
If it gets to that max army, I think Hendrils has a very strong shot.
Yeah, especially with +2. I mean, there's no real way that Ghost User can tech to that, considering it does take 190 seconds to complete. Ghost User now looking to engage against this, but it won't catch. There's 71 mutas on the map. I'm really surprised Hendrilisk is taking this fight. Even with the +2, I don't think this is a good idea.
Oh no, the game-ending blunder from Hendrils. He decides to engage. A lot beats a little every single time. Hendrils, despite his superior upgrades, is on the retreat.
Yeah, that was massive. 29 Mutalisk to 51 now. That was a huge tactical error from Hendrilisk, and at this point, I don't see a way out of it. You know, he can build as many mutas as he wants, but he's still way behind now. There's no way this engagement's going to work out for him, even with a Queen and Spore Crawler behind it. It's not going to happen. You can see 48 to 16 right now. 45 mutas still on the map for Ghost User. That army is about to die, and Hendrilisk is about to go down to the lower bracket by the looks of it, and we'll see Ghost User go through to play the winner of Drunken Boy and Neeb. Down goes that 4th base. Nicely picked off there by Ghost User. That was unfortunate.
Unfortunate, but man, Gosu User just making such great use of all these little advantages. I mean, really the only thing you could even criticize Gosu User for is a couple of those Zergling counterattacks. Had amazing positioning, getting up this 4th base, defending it, getting small edges, picking off Overlord Zergling's drones here and there, and I mean, Gosu User just needed one big mistake from his opponent to end the game, and that's what we just saw. Gosu User just doing cleanup after the blunder.
Yeah, and he's getting this very rare situation where he's able to use 50 Mutalisks to kill Overlords, and just seeing them melt, no doubt, is absolutely fantastic for him, and he takes the victory. Nicely played there by Ghost User. He will now go on to face the winner of Neeb and Drunken Boy, and I think, honestly, that particular fight, this best of 3, was probably the biggest risk for Ghost User. It is a Zerg versus Zerg. He was playing from Europe, and he's playing against a tough opponent. I think against Neeb or Drunken Boy, he definitely has the edge.
Yeah, and I mean, I truly think that this was an excellent showcase of Hendrilisk's skills. I feel like it was one critical blunder that really cost Hendrilisk that game. Hendrilisk was playing from behind the whole time, doing good jobs, chipping up, I mean, picking off drones in the main. At the end of that game, Ghost User was down to 33 drones. I mean, that's amazing. That's an incredible tumble, given how little it seemed like Hendrilisk could really do damage-wise. The 4th and 3rd were almost in shambles by game's end. So, you know, huge props to Hendrilisk for holding his own versus a real monster.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And he's not out of it yet. He, of course, will have to face the loser of the next match, which will be Neeb versus Drunken Boy. And he has another shot at going through. We may very well see 2 Zergs qualify, but Ghost User did play that incredibly well. There's no way of taking that away from him. Hendrilisk did his best, and you're right, he made some great tactical decisions, but unfortunately, it's that one bad tactical decision he made that killed him, rather than the 10 good ones that kept him in the game.
Yeah, and Zerg vs. Zerg does certainly have that feel. You have to be really on your toes. You're really watchful of the mini-map. I mean, a lot of the... I feel like some people don't quite... doesn't jive with them. But for me, man, I think it is a hell of a lot of fun to be in the mid-game of a 10 Zerg vs. Zerg, because a lot of your decisions are automatic. You're building Lings, you're building Mutalisks, you're trying to get up another base, you're making sure you have all the dudes in gas. And then it's sweeping in the middle of the map, really trying to focus on getting good engagements, trying to, you know, see one Mutalisk get the edge, pick it off, and then retreat. It's just so intense. And I think Ghost User played off that sort of tense, little itty-bitty advantage style so well.
I have no more things to add to that. That was eloquently done and excellently played,
Yay.
Of course, by these guys. Very, very well done to them. But one player has to advance, one player has to go down, and that, of course, was Hendrilisk. So we'll be seeing him play against the loser of the next match, which will be Drunken Boy versus Neeb. This is going to be an FXO team kill. Thankfully, there's only 2 of them in the group, so potentially they could still both advance, one as the first place and one as the second.
I'm excited to see another mirror matchup, guaranteeing that in the elimination match and the qualification match coming up, it's 2 TVZs.
Yes. That's always nice. Now, people say, oh, why do I have to start with this? Because then it can end with something different, which is always nice to see. So, nicely played by both of these guys, but we will, of course, be going to the next matchup very shortly. We're going to take a brief break as we set everything up for that. But there you see, that is the bracket. Gosu User takes down Hendrilisk 2-1. He will advance through. And now that means that Hendrilisk will be waiting in the wings to play the loser of Drunken Boy and Neeb. We'll find out who is able to go through in that match and who will fall down to the lower bracket right after the